Welcome to the Texas Department of Transportation Lubbock District's virtual open house with an in-person option for the Farwell Texico route study. US 70, also known as US 84, is locally known as Avenue A within Farwell, Texas. But within Texico, New Mexico, it is referred to as US 60, 70, 84, or Wheeler Avenue. The study is targeting two existing railroad crossings. The first crossing is located at the Texas-New Mexico state line on US 60, 70, 84, and the second is located at FM 292 on US 60 right outside of the Farwell city limits. This is a pre-recorded presentation. The Lubbock District would like to welcome you and thank you for participating in this virtual open house with an in-person option. The presentation is available for online viewing starting on Thursday, June 8, 2023, at 4 p.m. Central Time and will remain available for viewing with an opportunity to provide comments until Friday, June 30th, 2023. TxDOT is providing the public with two opportunities for in-person events. Both open house events will contain the same information. The first open house is Thursday, June 8th, 2023, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Central Time at the Farwell ISD Administration Building, located at 805 Avenue G, Farwell, Texas 79325. The second open house event is scheduled for Tuesday, June 13, 2023 from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time at the Texico ISD Cafeteria, located at 520 North Griffin Street, Texico, New Mexico 88135. Materials being presented at these in-person events, along with the project information, can also be found at www.TxDOT.gov by searching Farwell Railroad Crossing. During the video, you may pause the presentation or navigate forward or backward using your video player. We would like to begin this presentation with the Safety Minute. November 7, 2000 was the last deathless day on roadways in Texas. That means for over 22 years, at least one person has died every single day. We all have a part to play to change that. This message is that reminder to end the streak of deaths on Texas highways. We need drivers and passengers to act more responsibly and help us reach our goal of 0 deaths by 2050. Texans can play a major role in ending fatal crashes with a few simple driving habits. Wear seatbelts, drive the speed limit, put away the phone and other distractions, and never drive under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So please, do your part and share this message with your friends and family. The Texas Department of Transportation Lubbock District would like to recognize the New Mexico Department of Transportation for their hard work and efforts to assist us in developing alternatives that would be feasible for both communities along the Texas and New Mexico state line. Our goal is to improve transportation facilities for the traveling public in our states. Because one of the proposed alternatives would require work within New Mexico, we feel it is important to seek everyone's input. The second alternative being presented does not require construction in New Mexico, but it still may affect the community of Texico, New Mexico. For that reason, we feel it is important that both communities and departments of transportation are active in the route study. We'll provide a brief review of the study and then be covering the following areas as part of this presentation, which includes the study goals, the study purpose and need, schematics and typicals for alternative number 1, also referred to as US 60, 70, 84 Railroad Bridge, schematic and typicals for alternative number 2, also referred to as US 60 and FM 292 train bypass route, the next steps, and how to provide input or ask questions. The materials and presentation for this public meeting are the same whether you are participating virtually or in person. The materials online can be found by going to www.TxDOT.gov, clicking on the magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner and typing in Farwell Railroad Crossing. These meeting materials will be available for comment through Friday, June 30th, 2023. Presented on this slide is the overview of the Farwell Texico route study. The project location being studied is within Parmer County, Texas. Various alternatives have been examined over time in this identified project area and its vicinity. Combined, over 10 alternative designs have been examined by the New Mexico Department of Transportation and the Texas Department of Transportation. Alternatives being presented to the public and displayed in the Farwell Texico route study anticipate acquiring right-of-way for construction. Displacements would be anticipated for alternative number 1, which is depicted on a future slide. TxDOT estimates that there are 72 trains per day traveling along US 60 and 16 trains per day traveling along US 7084. The annual average daily traffic in Farwell, Texas, recorded on US 7084, also known as Avenue A, was 8,573 vehicles in the year 2021. It is anticipated to grow to 12,002 vehicles by the year 2041. Recorded on US 60 in Farwell, Texas was 5,081 vehicles in the year 2021. It is also anticipated to grow to 7,667 vehicles by the year 2041. Presented on this slide are the purpose and need. The need for alternative number 1 and number 2 includes to improve safety of travelers on US 60, 70, 84 in Parmer County, Texas, to reduce potential for vehicle versus train incident at the existing railroad crossings, provide ADA ramps and sidewalk facilities to meet the needs of the pedestrian traffic along US 60, 70, 84, provide wider shoulders on FM 292 for farming equipment traveling between properties, provide enhanced traffic routes to increase the mobility for emergency vehicles and first responders, provide the traveling public with enhanced traffic routes during train delays at the existing crossings. The purpose of the route study is to identify the route options that would reduce or eliminate travel delays at the existing railroad crossings in Parmer County, Texas. Identify if a route presented should be advanced for further design and environmental study, engage stakeholders and the general public to gain feedback and input, and assess the impacts either alternative would have on the communities of Farwell, Texas, and Texico, New Mexico. The purpose of the public meeting is to inform the public of the status of the route study, to present proposed alternatives and determine the potential to affect lives and property, to develop a record of public views and opinions to accompany recommendations for a feasible traffic route to span one of the existing crossings in Parmer County, Texas. Let's review alternative number 1, referred to as the US 60, 70, 84 Railroad Bridge. This alternative design would require construction in both Texas and New Mexico. In this slide, the schematic for alternative number 1 is being displayed. Alternative number 1, referred to as the US 60, 70, 84 Railroad Bridge, would span from FM 292 in Farwell, Texas to College Street in Texico, New Mexico. Depicted in red is the proposed frontage roads. In blue are the proposed main lanes, and in yellow is the bridge structure spanning the existing BNSF railroad. Construction would require right-of-way acquisition and displacements on the north side of US 7084, also known as Avenue A within Farwell, Texas. It would also require right-of-way acquisition and displacements on the south side of US 60, 70, 84, also known as Wheeler Avenue within Texico, New Mexico. The proposal of alternative number 1 is to construct a grade-separated bridge above the existing railroad crossing and provide direct access to US 60, 70, 84 in the case of a train delay. Proposed right-of-way required is estimated to be approximately 15 acres. The construction of the bridge would mean that the existing railroad crossing will be removed, and no access will be available across state lines below the bridge. Shown here in the illustration is the proposed typical section of the US 60, 70, 84 railroad bridge. A typical section is a cross-section of the road designed to provide the public with a visual representation of how it may look. The illustration is not to scale and simply for visual representation. The illustration on your screen shows the proposed bridge structure in the air spanning over the existing BNSF railroad. At its crest, the bridge height will be approximately 23 feet. The bridge structure will be composed of 2 travel lanes in each direction with a width of 12 feet each. Divided by a central barrier, the design also includes 10-foot wide outside shoulders. Shown here in the illustration is the proposed typical section of the frontage roads along US 60, 70, 84. This illustration is not to scale and simply for a visual representation. Alternative number 1 will not only have a bridge structure spanning the existing railroad, but also have one-way frontage roads. The frontage road will have a 12-foot wide travel lane and a 10-foot wide outside shoulder. Proposed with the construction of the frontage road is the installation of a 6-foot wide sidewalk within the proposed border width. The existing railroad crossing will be removed and access through US 7084 from New Mexico and Texas will only occur through travel of the proposed bridge structure. The frontage road in Texas will function as a U-turn, as it travels under the bridge structure to access south of US 7084 in Farwell, Texas. In New Mexico, the eastbound frontage road will connect into the existing US 60 intersection under the bridge structure. The westbound US 60 travel lane will tie into the new frontage road in New Mexico to provide a continuous flow. Let's review alternative number 2, referred to as the US 60 and FM 292 train bypass route. This alternative design would require construction, but only in Texas. On this slide, the schematic for alternative number 2 is being displayed. Alternative number 2, referred to as the US 60 and FM 292 train bypass route, would be constructed just outside of Farwell, Texas. This schematic illustrates that the proposed bridge structure would span over the existing railroad road, BNSF Railroad, and US 60 eastbound. Depicted in the color green is the left-hand entrance and exit ramps to provide access to the elevated intersection, or US 60, in the existing median. Depicted in blue is the proposed main lanes of FM 292, and in yellow is the bridge structure. Construction would require right-of-way acquisition south of Railroad Road. Alternative number 2 would construct a train bypass that spans over the existing railroad crossing and provides direct access to US 60 and FM 292 in the case of a train delay. Proposed right-of-way acquisition is currently estimated to be 23 acres. The construction of this bridge would mean that the existing railroad crossing would be removed, but access to Railroad Road will remain available. TxDOT would propose to place a drainage area between Railroad Road and the FM 292 main lanes. There would be no direct impacts to the Sunrise Terrace Cemetery north of US 60. Shown here in the illustration is the proposed typical section of the elevated intersection on US 60. As previously mentioned, this is an illustration and not drawn to scale. Alternative number 2 would eliminate the existing FM 292 and US 60 railroad crossing and replace it with an elevated intersection to access the existing US 60. There is a proposal of left-hand entrance and exit ramps in the existing medians that will allow access to the elevated intersection. The elevated intersection will have 2 lanes, 12 feet wide in each direction, and have 9-foot wide outside shoulders. Alternative number 2 contains an elevated intersection spanning the BNSF Railroad in Farwell, Texas. Shown here in the illustration is the proposed typical section of the FM 292 main lanes approaching the intersection. As previously mentioned, this is an illustration and not drawn to scale. On FM 292, approaching from US 7084, the existing travel lanes would be widened from 10 feet wide to 12 feet wide, with 1 travel lane in each direction. There would also be 10-foot wide outside shoulders. So, you may be wondering, what's next? Well, the typical project development process consists of 4 phases, each involving stakeholder and public engagement. The timeline of each phase noted here are only estimates. Advancement from phase to phase is contingent upon the outcome of the previous phase and the availability of funding. As you can see, we are currently in the route study phase of project development, which is anticipated to be completed this fall. We have 2 open houses scheduled for the summer of 2023. Following the closure of the comment period, TxDOT Lubbock District will meet with the New Mexico Department of Transportation to review the feedback and comments received. With conclusion of review, TxDOT will assemble the route study and decide on the next steps. Following the route study is the environmental study phase. To move forward to this phase, a feasible alternative would need to be approved and funding would need to be secured. Anticipation to begin this phase is dependent on the results of the route study, which will be available to view in the fall of 2023. The environmental study phase is estimated to be completed in 24 months. Results from the environmental study for the selected alternative will be required to move forward. The next project phase would be to involve right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and final design. This phase typically takes an additional 1 to 3 years to complete. This is where offers and negotiations would occur with property owners to acquire needed right-of-way. Once this phase is completed, the project can move into construction, if construction funding is available. The combined project development phases could take anywhere from 8 to 12 years, which is all dependent on the availability of funding and agreements with primary stakeholders, such as the neighboring transportation agencies, as well as the railroad service providers. Results from the route study are anticipated to be on the TxDOT website and project page by fall of 2023. At that point, if an alternative presented has been chosen, we would then begin evaluating the environmental constraints for project feasibility. If no alternative is chosen from those presented, or if the public has provided us with input of a different design, the study process may continue further depending on funding and design feasibility. The environmental evaluation of potential impacts by the proposed project to the natural and human environment include but not limited to biological resources, cultural resources, hazardous materials, historical resources, traffic noise, and community impacts. The environmental constraints for both the town of Farwell, Texas and Texico, New Mexico have been monitored and have been documented on a preliminary environmental constraint map, which is available at the project meeting page with the rest of the public meeting documentation. Your comments are very important to the Texas and New Mexico Department of Transportation and will contribute greatly to the success of this study. Comments and feedback may be provided at one of the available in-person open houses. Comments may also be made throughout the comment period and will be included in the public meeting summary documentation. The TxDOT Lubbock District is asking the public to provide their comments in one of the following ways. You may email your comments to lbb_projects@texdot.gov. You may also download, print, and fill out a comment card and mail it to the Texas Department of Transportation, Lubbock District at the attention of the TP&D office located at 135 Sladen Road, Lubbock, Texas 79404. Comments will also be accepted by leaving a voicemail at 903-224-8390. You may find the comment card in meeting materials at the TxDOT website. Please go to www.texdot.gov. Type in Farwell Railroad Crossing in the keyword search at the top right of the TxDOT homepage. All your feedback, comments, and questions will be given careful consideration and responded to in a summary report that will be posted on the project website once the comment and review period is completed. The public comment period for the public meetings will close on Friday, June 30th, 2023. Please ensure that your comment is received or postmarked by this date. The public may also email or call project staff during regular office hours to ask questions about the project at any time in the project development process. Please don't hesitate to contact Kylan Francis or Julia Pershnick with any questions about the proposed project. It must be noted that comments on the project must be submitted in writing or by using the verbal comment phone number as previously discussed. You may call or email these project contacts Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. with any questions at any time in the project development process. Thank you for joining TxDOT's public meeting for the Farwell Texico route study. We appreciate your attendance. Please take the opportunity to review the project materials and remember to submit your comments on or before Friday, June 30th, 2023 to be a part of the official meeting documentation. This concludes our presentation.